Greetings and welcome to YAS Podcast.
This is our podcast, all of ours.
A podcast for all sex workers.
In this podcast, we will discuss the ins and outs, ups and downs of our lives and experiences as sex workers. I am your host, Daisy Ducati.
I am your Hopra, Gigi Holiday.
I'm your veteran stripper, A.M. Davies.
I'm your stripper queen from the north, Onyx. And this is YAS Podcast.
Hi everyone, AMD here on YAS Podcast 2025. I'm in a new studio, new look, new vibes, very excited. And we wanted to bring an episode to you early this year in 2025 in preparation for tax season coming up. So I really wanted to push this out early. We have a very exciting guest with us here today. Her name is Katherine Studley, and you are the only consultant. Am I getting that right?
That is me. Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. I asked you because I was really intrigued by your social media profile, which we're going to get into, like your vibe and your style and like sort of your mission. But we have to just clarify a couple of things for the audience. First of all, I said she. Pronouns, I believe, are she, her. Can we confirm that?
Confirmed.
Thank you. And secondly, Katherine, you are so beautiful. It's confusing to me that you're not a sex worker or a stripper and never have been. Can we talk about the fact that, because I was totally thrown based on your social media and how rad you are, can we just confirm that as well?
Confirmed. Yes, I am a civilian.
Yeah. And thank you for using that term. Thank you. I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons I was attracted to you, is that you use terminology and you seem like sort of dialed into the way sex workers talk about others and about themselves. And what I'm curious about is, as a non-sex worker and civilian, how did you get involved with working with so many sex workers in the consulting taxes, professional field?
Sure. Yes. So yeah, my journey is a little bit unconventional. I would say that I'm an unconventional person just in general. So I am an accountant by trade. I went to school in Buffalo, New York. I have a degree in accounting. I worked for a couple years in traditional CPA firms in Buffalo, New York. And I was like, okay, this is not my story. I don't care what happens to me. I'm not doing this ever again. So I moved to DC and I was working as a barista. And I actually got recruited for an intelligence agency in Washington, D.C. So I was doing the books for top secret projects.
Okay.
Yes. So that was cool. And like also a twist. And I was like, okay, wait, this is also not what I want to do with my life. Like, this is cool, but weird. And then the pandemic hit and I was on TikTok like everyone else. And I came across OnlyFans. So initially I started taking social media marketing clients. And then when I heard about OnlyFans, I said, oh my God, what is this? And I called a friend in Buffalo who I knew had a page, and she explained to me how it works. And I just said in passing, I said, oh yeah, you can write off like your ring light and your lingerie. And she was shocked. And I thought, oh my God, like, is this my life's work? Like, all of these people are going to need tax help now. Like, I know how to do these tax returns. So I did not know that OnlyFans was considered sex work. I had no exposure to the sex work industry. I had never been to a strip club. I just started posting on TikTok that I was judgment-free tax help, working for OnlyFans models. So then I would, but you can't say OnlyFans on TikTok. So I very quickly learned like the nuances of this industry. And then dancers found me almost immediately. Sugar babies found me. Dominatrixes, girls in cosplay, everyone doing everything under the sex work umbrella. So it was just like a crash course, basically. And I had my calendar open. I took free calls for a year so I could understand the industry and have conversations with people. So it kind of became like a knowledge share. So I would tell you for 20 minutes about taxes, but then, I would kind of like pick your brain about how your business works. And then because I was learning like the intricacies of all these different like niches of sex work, I learned how it works. Yeah. And then like different resources like Ramina from Queens of the Underworld. I found her because I thought that I had clients who were being exploited by their managers, and I was everyone's first point of contact, but I'm not equipped for this. So yeah, just between basically just talking to people.
Yeah, that's a good point. So people were coming to you when they felt like they were being exploited at work?
kind of everything. They're just like, you're the only consultant. That's how I market myself.
Right.
And I'm just saying I'm judgment free. I'm at least like someone to listen to, but people were coming to me for things that were not related to taxes. And I am not equipped to handle anything really beyond
Absolutely.
taxes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to be equipped for some of that stuff. There's, as you've probably been learning, there's a lot of problematic things at our workplaces in the sex work industry. And it's heavy. There's a lot there. So but the fact that you're providing judgment-free taxes is just simply amazing. And it's, a lot of tax accountants typically work just in their state, but were you giving advice to people across all state lines when this was
Yeah.
happening? Okay.
Yep. All 50 states. I mean, pretty much your tax story is the same. Some states don't have state tax, so you don't have to file a tax return for those states. But if you're using a tax program, it's going to generate what your state tax would be. And there's definitely there can be complications. But it's common even when you're working in like CPA firms that people will have an investment property out of state, or they own part of a business in another state. So we do have
Right.
exposure.
Right. Okay. Wow. So you do say that you're judgment free, and was it just like that line that attracted people to you? Was it that simple?
It is. I did not realize it. Because I am judgment free. So I just said it, and it resonated with so many, and it still does. I mean, even on TikTok, like I have clients who are truck drivers who want a judgment-free accountant. I have widows who are 75 and 5 years behind on taxes who just want a judgment-free experience. So it mostly resonated with sex workers, and I ended up in like the sex work algorithm and the ecosystem and the world online.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of clients who are not sex workers who also just don't want to be judged, which I think speaks to like us all being the same at the end of the day. Like we just want to file our taxes without being judged.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thankfully, there's someone like you out there, because one of our questions is literally about that, which is how can someone safely and securely find a tax professional in their area, people who are accepting of sex workers. And I guess I have a follow-up question to that too, though, because you're not in everyone's area, but you help a lot of people. So what do you have to say about that, like part 1 and 2?
I would say the biggest thing is make sure that your tax preparer is actually registered with the IRS, because something that we see a lot is people don't know where to go, which makes a lot of sense. How do you even know where to start? Yeah. So I've seen this in a couple of cases. It's someone's boyfriend says they'll file everyone's taxes and they're doing it wrong, and they're taking a percentage of your refund, and they're not being compliant at all. So at least if your tax preparer is registered with the IRS, then they're legit enough to actually be filing the tax return. Yeah, we work with people in all 50 states, but I understand also that a lot of clients want to work in person with someone too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's tough. I don't know if I have any advice exactly on how you would vet someone, because I've heard a lot of horror stories, unfortunately, from people going into H&R Block and getting judged. And honestly, they just don't understand what a tip out is, what a house fee is. Like, they don't understand how strip clubs work.
Yeah. So it's funny. I went to H&R Block when I was 23. So I started stripping when I was 21. I was making like $100,000 cash. Like all of a sudden, I was basically still a child. And a couple of years in, my mother was like, "Are you doing your taxes?" I'm like, "That's for losers. Like, I'm not doing my taxes." And she's like, "You have to, for all these reasons." And this was back in like 2004. So she took me to H&R Block, and at the end of it, I owed $15,000 in taxes, and I don't think they had me write anything off or even really talk to me about any of the income that I made. Obviously, that was the last time I went to anyone like that. And then again, back in 2004, like, we just know less. We don't have connections like we do now, where we can have these conversations online and learn more, And so that was like devastating as a 23-year-old. Like, I owed someone $15,000 was a lot of money for me at a very young age. It was scary.
It's very scary. And it's a surprise too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could ask your tax preparer if they know what a house fee is. Because if they don't understand your
Right.
write-offs, it's not going to be helpful to you.
Right, right. Well, I think I can also answer this question because it's something that I did recently. I did find a tax accountant prepared person in our area, and I went to my other stripper friends and I said,
Oh,
"Hey, do you know someone who's like super chill and who's good at?" And so I just kind of went through my network and eventually found someone who knew someone. And so that was for me how I and then I even explained to that person on the phone, like, hey, this is my background. This isn't going to be a problem, is it? And I was just pretty straight up. But I had already had an inkling that this person was going to be safe because they came from a trusted referral. So,
that makes a ton of sense. Yep.
yeah.
That's a good path for people.
Yeah. What's like at least one of the most common questions that you get from sex workers when it comes to preparing taxes?
I mean, basically just how self-employment taxes work, because it's not something that we're ever taught about for any
Right.
industry, let alone for sex work industry. So, just even like what a write-off is, like the concept of a write-off. So you're earning self-employment income, meaning you're not getting paid on a W-2. You should be getting issued a 1099, but a lot of times clubs are not issuing 1099s, or they're doing something very funny with the documents that they're issuing. So
Yeah.
that's what I've learned as well. So you have to be tracking your own stuff
Mm-hmm.
for sure. And then a business expense or a write-off are necessary expenses that you have to take in order to earn income. So if you hear business expense write-off, that would be your dancewear, tip outs, house fees, your health insurance premium, whatever you're carrying in your bag to work. If you're bringing spray, wipes, an extra deodorant you only have for work and it's exclusively for business, that's a write-off.
All of that.
Um,
All of that you just listed as a write-off. Shoes.
yes, pleasers, makeup you're wearing at work, tax preparation, your LLC formation. If you are using your personal phone to text your regulars to come into the club, you can write off a percentage of your phone bill. Um, yeah, strip lashes, just nothing that's
Yes.
stuck to your body. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I'm I'm totally invoking that scene from Schitt's Creek. Do you watch that show?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And where David is like, I'll just write it off. And his dad is like, do you even know what that is? And he basically doesn't. And so just in case nobody really understands, can you explain it and like the benefits of a write-off and exactly like, does it mean you owe less taxes because of those write-offs, etc.?
Sure. So let's say you made $20,000 throughout the year. That's your self-employment income. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, Cash. And your write-offs are the expenses that you take against it. So let's say whatever, you paid $1,000 in house fees and $1,000 in dancewear, and you add up all your expenses and you have $5,000 that you can write off. These are your business expenses. So $20,000 of your income minus $5,000 in business expenses means that you're going to be taxed on the 15,000.
Right.
So it doesn't it's not a dollar for dollar thing, right? So if you write off $1, it's not like you necessarily saved $1 on your taxes, but you're taxed on your profit, which is the same thing as your net income.
Right.
So it's your income less your expenses equals your self-employment net income, your profit. That's what you're actually paying tax on. That's the number that banks are looking at when they're deciding if you should get a credit card or a car note or a mortgage.
Right.
So it's important that you are taking the appropriate write-offs, because why would you be paying more money than you need to in taxes if you are having valid business expenses? But you don't want to write off too much, because if you don't have enough of a profit, it's not going to help you. It's purchasing power for your future self.
Right, because basically when you're working for yourself, the money that you claim on your taxes shows like what you're capable of paying back when it comes to loans for cars or even renting an apartment or buying a house.
Exactly. So if you were an employee, you would show your W-2. Because you don't have that, you're keeping your own records. You would show your bank statements, which we can get into. You should have a separate bank account that you use only for work. It can be a separate personal checking account, but this would be considered your business, I have air quotes on business bank statements. And then you would also show your tax return. And that's how you're proving your income.
Yes, it's true. We made a stripper store for your slutty lifestyle, so go and shop the core. But wait, there's more. Pole dancers, listen up. You've learned from hosts, support their growth by shopping here with us. Stripper fans, all you daddies, you can shop here too. Where these threads and solidarity get stuff for your boo.
It's a stripper store made with strippers in mind. Profit share with all the babes to supplement the grind. It's a stripper store made with strippers in mind. Profit share with all the babes to supplement the grind.
Shop with us at yasstore.shop to purchase items that directly support the podcast, our guests, and 10% of profits to a stripper or sex worker charity. Yasstripper.com. Let's say I'm still dancing. I have my regular bank account now, and then I would have a separate bank account that just has my income flowing in and out. Like it's all only my business expenses are. Can you explain? I think I'm messing it up.
Yep. Yeah. So you should have two bank accounts.
Okay.
One is your personal account. This is where you're paying for your rent. You're paying for lunch with your friend, your gym. This is where you live your life out of.
Okay.
Separately, you should have a separate bank account that's just for dancing income.
Okay.
If you are selling real estate, you would have a separate bank account for that. So this is isolated to your income and expenses for dancing.
Okay.
And you deposit all of your income there. So if it's cash, again, Cash App, PayPal, Zelle, hook it all up to this new bank account.
Right.
Then when you go to buy new pleasers, you're using the debit card that's hooked to that bank account.
Right.
So that all of the business expenses are streamlined there.
Right. But this isn't a personal bank account, not a business, using air quotes, bank account. That's where for me, because I have other businesses and I do have them separate, but I've never thought of having, as a dancer, two personal bank accounts before to do it like that.
Yeah, because that way, when you go to add up your expenses at the end of the year, you don't have to sift through your grocery bill and whatever, Venmoing your grandma. Like it's all
Totally
just your business related expenses.
Yeah. I guess
And
I
if
just
you had
didn't know if that was okay. You know what I mean? Like if you're required to, which I guess would lead me to my next question in a minute. But yeah, I guess I just assumed that it would have to be a business bank account, which has fees, et cetera, and minimums, stuff like that. But it doesn't.
Yes.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
It can be a separate personal checking account, and then you can just transfer money to yourself, and that's how you're paying yourself. So if you want to pay your rent, you would transfer the money from your business personal checking account to your actual personal checking account.
Okay. Interesting. That's really interesting. I hope people have you seen and you've advised your clients to do that and they've done that and that works for them like that.
Yeah, you actually should. I mean, that is like IRS guidance is that you should not have your business income and expenses coming out of the same bank account as your personal income and expenses. But when you're a dancer, you're considered a small business automatically. The day you earn self-employment income, you're a small business.
Right.
But no one ever talks about that or explains it.
Right. So for 20 years, I was just filtering all my dance money and then all my other money all in one account every time. For 20 years, I did that. And I'm just looking back, I wish I had this advice. There is a question about, so I do know somebody that filed themselves as an LLC, as a business. Is that something that you would recommend?
It depends.
Okay.
So an LLC is not going to save you any taxes.
Okay.
That's a misconception. So if you are earning cash, if you put it through an LLC or your personal bank account, your taxes look the same. You file the same tax return. It's due April 15th. It's called a 1040. You still have Schedule C. That's where you list your income and expenses. LLCs draw a line between your personal assets and your business assets so that if you were to ever be sued or go bankrupt, it would only be the income that's in your business account, the assets in your account that would be at risk.
Okay.
LLCs are helpful to this industry if you care about anonymity. If discretion is important to you, then an LLC might be the move. If you want to use a Cash App hooked up to your LLC, and so not your name, or just one more degree of separation, the LLC is beneficial. It allows you to open up a true business bank account with a bank using the LLC paperwork. The separate bank account would work exactly the same as the personal one that we're talking about.
Okay.
With an LLC, you can build business credit because you get an EIN number, which is like a social security number, but for your business. So the bank account is in the EIN number. It depends on what you have going on. I would say, like, for OnlyFans models who are in contracts with a manager and they're paying an assistant and they have a photographer and there's a lot of moving parts, I would say get an LLC right now. Do it today. For dancers, if you're a one-girl show, you're tracking your income and expenses, you can live your whole life forever and never need an LLC.
Okay. That's good to know. We do have some questions too from the audience. Okay, so here's a pretty basic question. What do you put in as your job title on taxes?
You can say performing arts, dancer, entertainer, artist.
Okay.
I wouldn't necessarily say exotic dancer, but if you did, there's nothing illegal about being an exotic dancer.
Right. Okay.
But it has to be something, or stripper. Yeah, it has to be. It has to be something where the expenses make sense, though. So if you say like, what do people? I don't know. If you put it through like art teacher or like something yoga instructor, then your expenses wouldn't make sense if you're a yoga instructor, though.
Right.
If you're a yoga instructor, why are you writing off pleasers? If you're an entertainer, you could write off pleasers. If you're something generic in the entertainment arts industry, then it makes sense.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely yoga instructors are not wearing stripper heels, not in yoga class anyway. So is it recommended that we report what we earn through Cash App / Venmo? Because I've been coasting on calling all of that gifts for years. This is an audience question.
I would recommend that you claim it. And first of all, y'all, I'm a little conservative, okay? Because that's the only way that you can get things done is by being compliant.
Okay.
So the only thing I can tell you is to claim all of your income.
Okay.
Whatever you put on your spreadsheet for your tax preparer is what we take as truth. But I would say definitely claim anything that has a digital trail because you can trace it.
Okay.
But then goes into the next question. If you have a sugar daddy and it is a true gift where there is no transaction or exchange, then what happens? And that's a different conversation, which we can have.
Yeah. What do you mean by transaction or exchange? What do you mean specifically?
So in the spicy industry, it's all called gifting, right? That's what you would say. It's like, oh, it's a gift.
Okay.
But if it's a gift that you get every third Saturday of the month, $5,000 consistently, kind of looks like income.
Okay.
So you kind of have to make it make sense. And this goes arrangement by arrangement. But I usually suggest that you're claiming the income from your sugar daddy as well. And then you're filing the taxes with that income. And then you can take expenses against it. And then you show that you are making money and you can leverage it later. And if you owe taxes, maybe your sugar daddy pays it. I don't know, but it's filed.
Right. Yeah, get the sugar daddy to pay taxes. Why didn't I think about that?
Which technically makes it income the next year, but we're focusing 1 year at a time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Yeah. So I guess this other question kind of coincides with, or maybe you mostly answered it. My sugar daddy gives me money that I'm using for rent. Do I have to prove that? And if so, how would I?
Okay. So if you are getting a monthly allowance, that's just a blanket allowance for existing, I would claim that because it's not specific. It's something that you're getting every third Saturday of the month. That's what you get. If you have custom requests for things, then it would technically be income and then it would be an expense. So if someone's paying your rent $1,650 for your rent and you go ahead and you pay your rent and the only reason why you got that money was to pay your rent, it's in and out. So that's a wash. So you don't have to claim it. That actually would be a gift.
Okay.
If someone is paying $250 for you to get a blowout and a white manicure, something very specific, then it would be an in and out. That's a wash. But if you have a lot of Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Zelle activity, some of that you're definitely going to have to claim, because it's going to be a lot of explaining if you're ever audited.
Right. And is there a cap on how much you can claim as gift for the year?
So the exclusion is $17,000. From the IRS perspective, a gift is like if your great uncle dies and leaves you 20 grand, what is the rules on that? Or if you're whatever, your parent, family. But once it's over that threshold, the donor, the gifter, would actually have to pay the tax on it.
The gifter would have to pay the tax.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a little confusing. This is like a very nuanced conversation. It really depends on what you have going on.
Okay.
To look at like the full picture, like, for example, do you also have a W-2? Do you have income showing other places? Are you living 100% off of this 10 grand you're getting from PayPal every month?
Got it really varies from person to person, it sounds like, depending on what you're up to.
It varies, yes. But I would say I lean towards claiming it, and then you can take more expenses. Definitely for things that you're earning at the club, on like tips on Cash App, Venmo, deposit into that separate bank account.
Okay.
Because there's a trail of it. It's hitting your social security number.
Okay. To close out, what is there like that we didn't talk about in our conversation today that you think is really important for all sex workers to know when it comes to filing taxes, making sure you're compliant, etc.? Like something that you come across a lot that we haven't covered yet.
The biggest expense I see people miss is their health insurance premiums. So I just want to say it again. If you're self-employed and you are not getting health insurance through a W-2 job, your monthly health insurance premiums are a write-off, not your co-pays at the doctor's office, but like the $400 a month you pay to have health insurance is a write-off. So get health insurance.
That's a lot of money. Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of money.
It adds up. Yes. Yeah. Let's see. We can always catch you up on late taxes. This happens all the time.
Okay.
It's very normal in any industry to be behind on your taxes. So if you're scared, call me and we can just go year by year. The IRS has payment plans. The state has payment plans. You can pay it off like a credit card. There's two penalties for not filing. There's one for not paying. There's one for not filing. So if we can at least get you organized and get the tax returns files, you have the paper, you have the document, you can show prove your income, and then you can set up on a payment plan after that.
Nice. Yeah, it's the payment plan. I've definitely done that in my lifetime. And something that I can share that I have a lot of experience doing is I have called the IRS so many times and just talked to them. And it's actually a pretty chill process. Besides the extended wait times, I've very rarely had like a horrible, terrible experience talking to people at the IRS. In fact, I've found that they've been very helpful and like pretty lenient if you just call them and talk to them and tell them what you need or what's going on. That's been my experience. And I just wanted to share that with our audience and see, like, would you concur that that's pretty typical?
110%. For sure. Call the IRS. You can get to a human eventually. It's intimidating, but they can at least tell you what's going on. Same thing if you get a notice. If you get any correspondence from the IRS, check your mail. It is scary, but open it. And if you don't know what it means, call the number on it.
Yeah. And
in that same breath, on the topic of the IRS, everyone has an IRS login. It is irs.gov/account. You can log in with your social security number, and then you have to do like an ID verification process. But once you get into that portal, it's going to show all of your notices. It's going to show you a transcript of the tax returns that you've filed. It'll show how much you owe if you have a refund. If you have a random 1099 from a club you worked at 3 times, it'll be in that portal. So it's a good place to start if you're really behind on taxes. You can just log in there.
Okay. I just thought of one last thing.
Sure.
And I don't know how much this applies, but it's always something that, we like to think about. What about undocumented workers in the US? What is there anything that they can do or should be doing, or is that a sticky situation? What do you think about that?
Definitely sticky. If you have a social security number, then you can be filing your taxes, but I don't know enough about it to really
Okay.
say anything
Okay.
meaningful,
Gotcha.
to be honest.
All
Yeah.
right. Just have to at least mention it because there's a lot of undocumented workers, especially in sex work. So maybe we can try to find an answer. Well, this has been so informative. I really appreciate you spending your time with us today. Thank you so much. And please, can you tell the audience exactly all the places to find you and the best ways to, book a session with you?
Yes, of course. So you can find me at the_only_consultant. That's on TikTok and Instagram. You can also find me at theonlyconsultant.com. And we are accepting new clients for this tax season. I also have consultations available. So if you want to do your own taxes and just call me for 20 minutes and run through your questions, I'm happy to do that. I have a lot of resources on my website too. I have blog posts and FAQs and a course and ebooks you can buy. So I'm really passionate about just making tax information available to anyone who wants to learn it. So find me and hopefully you'll learn something about your small business.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that and for being here today. And I hope you have a great new year. It's January 2025. It's very exciting.
New year. Let's go.
Yeah. And thanks to everyone for listening.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Katherine.
All right. Have a great day.
I just wanted to leave a personal note at the end of this episode to acknowledge the several large fires that are currently burning in Los Angeles in Southern California right now. Los Angeles was my home for 22 years. And I feel a deep connection to that place. And I have countless numbers of friends and chosen family that live in Los Angeles. And I just want everyone there to know that I'm thinking of you. And I hope that you're safe and that you are okay. And that you will continue to be okay in the future. And I just wanted to send all of my love and thoughts to all of those people out there who are really going through it right now. We're going to sign off for today. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of YAS Podcast. And we will see you on the next one. Have a great day. Thank you for absorbing this episode of YAS, a Stripper Podcast. We love your listening. YAS, a Stripper Podcast is produced by Period Podcast Network. Please like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast, and please consider donating to help keep this podcast alive. Send your love to paypal.me/YAS, a Stripper Podcast.